If you want your best ever start to an FPL season, then you need to build a great Game Week 1 draft. And in this video, I'm going to reveal the exact team structure that you need for those Game Week 1 drafts. I'm going to tell you the specific prices you need to spend in each position to have the optimal team. So you're going to want to make sure you stick around for this one. Make sure you do drop a like on the video. And of course, if you are enjoying what you're watching, smash that subscribe button. We're aiming for 6K before Game Week 1. So without further ado, let's take a look at this perfect team structure. Yes guys, okay, so a quick reminder for those that maybe are new to FPL. When we are building our Game Week 1 drafts, we get £100 million to spend, unlimited free transfers up until that Game Week 1 deadline, and we have to select 15 players, 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 forwards. Now with this team here, I believe this is the perfect and optimal draft structure going into Game Week 1. As importantly, it gives you flexibility in each position for you to move your team around in the opening game weeks. We need to go into Game Week 1 with the kind of mindset that we don't know anything. We're going off a few pre-seasons. There are so many new managers, new systems in the league this year that I don't think we know too much going into it. And I think being very flexible rather than rigid is going to be the best strategy for you and your team. So first up, let's move into the goalkeepers. I've opted for the 5 million and 4 million goalkeeper strategy right now. It's worth noting, there are so many ways of playing the game, and I do think the 4.5 million goalkeepers are good value. So 5 million, I think, is the best route to go for from a value perspective. At 5.5, we have Allison and Edison, and yes, they are going to keep clean sheets, but realistically, I believe at the 5.5 range, they don't offer the best value to us. I think at 0.5 million, I think there's some good goalkeepers there. Ramsdale is the pick of the bunch, and I really like going for the 5 million options because the likes of Ramsdale give us an investment in a top team. Importantly, they accumulate save points from time to time, and they have fantastic fixtures in the opening game weeks. We can go early with a wild card if we need to, so I think targeting the opening fixtures is quite important. And I think the likes of the 5 million, in particular Ramsdale, is a really good investment for your FPL teams. Now, at the time of recording, we do not have the confirmation of Onana to Man United or his price reveal. But if he was to come in at 5 million, it just further reinstates the fact that I believe that is the best price point for goalkeepers going into Game Week 1. He will be in direct competition for Ramsdale as the best 5 million goalkeeper. I do think there are good 4.5s out there. And I like going for the 5 million because you can come down to the 4.5 million if you think you have gone wrong in your price point selection in Game Week 1. So I like having that flexibility there. And of course, for me, if you've watched before, rotating goalkeepers simply isn't an option for me in FPL. I do not believe it's a good strategy. I think you go for your one goalkeeper and then a 4 million to go alongside it. And this season's 4 million looks like it will be West Ham's Areola. So I think investing 9 million into your goalkeepers is a wise move. I don't think you need to spend any more in that department. I think it's a really good and optimal use of your budget. Give yourself that guaranteed game time in that 5 million goalkeeper. So moving into the defenders, and this was probably going to be a little bit controversial. We have got the 8 million defender. Now, of course, there's only one 8 million defender in the game, and that's Trent Alexander-Arnold. And it has split the community. Some deem him fantastic value still at 8 million. Others believe that he isn't worth that price and they would much rather come down to the cheaper options in the game. For me, I would like to start the game with Trent at 8 million. Now, it's worth noting, if in pre-season we are to see him play as a midfielder and he doesn't offer the creative threat that we saw in the second half of last season as an inverted fullback, then this will change the potential price structure going into Game Week 1. But right now, I believe Trent is still a fantastic FPL option. And the reason why I like going with him in Game Week 1 is it comes back to flexibility. If in the opening game weeks, Liverpool don't look the part, and in particular Trent himself doesn't look good FPL value, from 8 million we can come down to any defender in the game. You can go down to the 6.5s, and importantly the brilliant 5.5s that we have in the game, and you can completely change your structure. If you go without Trent, you are going to either have to have money in the bank or use 2 free transfers to then upgrade one of your defenders into Trent. So for me, it's either you start with Trent or you go without him and you avoid him until your wild card at the start of the season, maybe in Game Week 5 or a Game Week 6. And I'd rather just start with Trent, have that security blanket knowing that he could be a cash cow on my team in the opening game weeks. Now, an area that I think is absolutely essential to a lot of managers is the 5.5 million defender spot. We have some brilliant picks in Stones, Shaw, to name a few in that area. I think Ben White is a little bit overpriced for those that maybe have him in their teams right now. But I think at that 5.5 million option, it gives us that perfect balance of having a player who plays for a top 4 team, but importantly, a price point in our team where if we want to come down, we can do, or we can go up, we can do, like a Trippier at 6.5. I think there are too many fantastic options at 5.5 million to avoid. And I think investing in that area is all but essential in our teams. Now, I want to caveat this by saying, if we get a situation, because in this price structure here, let's say the 5 million goalkeeper is Ramsdale and the 5.5 million is Luke Shaw. If we were to get Onana at 5 million, that could then maybe get rid of the 5.5 million defender, and you could replace that with the 5 million Gabriel and the 5 million Onana, freeing up 0.5 million. But we'll come on to that in a team reveal later on in this video. The 5 million defender as well, I think, is looking like a lock in a lot of FPL teams. And the main reason for it is because of Brighton's Estupiñán. Now, I'm not saying he's essential for you, but it's the reason why he is one of the highest owned defenders in the game. The opening 3 fixtures of Brighton are fantastic. And I think at 5 million, again, it's a position that I think is just a nice way of wedging into your price structure. At 5 million, have Estupiñán for the opening game weeks, because there isn't really many other competitive 5 million defenders that I would have outside of him. And then we can either look to upgrade that position to 5.5 later down the line, or come down to a 4.5 if you want to free up the funds elsewhere. I think the 8 million, 5.5 and 5 million back 3 is the system that I would recommend for a lot of FPL managers. Now, of course, one that is a little bit up for debate is those 4th and 5th defenders. I have gone for 2 4 million defenders, mainly because of the strength of that back 3. I don't think with the 3 that will be selecting at 8 million, 5.5 and 5, you will need to rotate them in any fixture. So at 4 million, I think there are a couple about. Bell, Baldock, to name a few, could be guaranteed game time playing for teams that might have to be very good at home. And that is all we need from those 4 million defenders. Players that have got guaranteed game time and try to make their home a fortress, like we had last season with some of the newly promoted teams like Nottingham Forest. Hopefully we can pick up some gems at that 4 million price bracket, but I understand if managers want to go for the 4.5, as there are some fantastic options out there. If we can free up the funds, as I said, Onana coming into the league might just give us that fund to go up to a 4.5, but that is how I would like the defence to be structured. Moving into the midfield, and I think this is where the real value is in the game, and why a lot of FPL managers are adopting a 5-man midfield, even if they go for one up top. Everything is 5-man midfield, it looks like, in the community. And because of the value of these midfielders, I think it is just so difficult not to go for that shape of your team going into game week 1. So it's worth noting, we don't have the 12.5 million price band. And there's only one player priced at that, and that is Mo Salah. I've tried to build an FPL draft with Haaland, Mo Salah and Trent, and I seemingly can't get the balance that I want. I can't get the balance in the midfielders. And I believe going for this midfield structure just gives you the best of both worlds. And yes, we all want Mo Salah, there's no denying it. But I just can't build a draft that I believe is optimal for game week 1. So the 9 million midfielder, I believe, is pretty essential. We have Son and Rashford at that price point. But with the opening fixtures, I think Rashford is quite a lock at 9 million for our price. And again, having the 9 million means that you can come down to any midfielder in the game if you believe you have made a wrong choice in that area. So I think the 9 million is just a brilliant starting block. And of course, if we have to get to Mo Salah, you've then got the second most expensive midfielder that can just slightly get you there a bit easier than not going for that 9 million spot. The 8.5 is essential. You need an 8.5 million midfielder in your team, and realistically that's coming from the Arsenal boys, whether it be Saka or Odegaard. For me, Saka is pick of the bunch, but either way, 8.5 is essential in your teams because there are too many good options at that price range. Even the likes of Bruno Fernandes, if you were to ignore those Arsenal assets, 8.5 is a lock in your teams. Now, 7.5 is a little bit of a debatable one. Maddison and Foden are at this price point, and I do believe they could make a mockery of their price point at 7.5. Yes, we could shift it up to maybe an 8 million or another 8.5 and downgrade one of those 6.5 million midfielders to a 5.5, but that is going to all come whether we see gems emerge in pre-season. So for me, the 7.5 offers great value. Maddison and Foden, as I mentioned, are looking fantastic, and I really think they are going to be the players that we're going to eventually come to. So I like the idea of having them in game week 1. I think if we completely avoid the 7.5, I think we could be at risk of maybe getting priced out of them and finding it very difficult to get to them, because you're not going to want to sell Rashford and you're not going to want to sell Saka. So how do you come down to that player at 7.5 million? I think starting with them is a really nice way of having the balance in your teams. And then having the two 6.5s, the Ezes, the Embuemos, the of course the Matomas are the pick of the bunches at that price range, and I think they're offering great value this year. Now, as I said, if an Enciso at 5.5 emerges as a guaranteed game time, then we could look at going down that route, and then that might mean freeing up that 1 million to go up from the 7.5 to the 8.5 or an 8 million midfielder. Then the team structure might change, but this midfield here, I believe, gives us the best of both worlds. You get the investment in the top teams, and you get to target those brilliant values at 6.5 million. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Last up, moving into the forwards. Now, 14 million is just the only position in your team that is absolutely locked. That, of course, is Erling Haaland. I don't see any reason going against him. He's about 86% owned. He is going to be captained week in, week out. If you want a good start to the season, you have to go over Erling Haaland. You have to get incredibly lucky for you to have a great start to the season and go against Erling Haaland. So of all this team structure that you've seen on your screens here, the 14 just has to go in. So we're all starting basically with 86 million. We don't have 100 million, we have 86 because that 14 million slot is just locked into our teams. Don't try and be brave and go against him unless you're trying to play just for the fun of the game, which we are all doing, but we want to win it as well. So the 8 million forward is the one that probably is going to split you, whether you want to go down this route. I've seen some managers go for the 6 million forward alongside the 14. In Ferguson, as an example, he could emerge as great value. But for me, the similar as what I said about Trent at 8 million defender, I feel like the 8 million forward could prove to be fantastic value. Watkins and Gabriel Jesus coming at 8 million alongside Wilson are all brilliant options. And importantly, just behind that at 7.5, we have Nkunku and Darwin Núñez. Realistically, I think the odds on none of those five going off and emerging as amazing value is absolutely slim. So if you were to go with the Haaland and 6 million forward combination, again, you are then just looking to upgrade your forward in the early doors to accommodate that 8 million forward. For me, I would much rather go for the 8 million forward, knowing that I can either move sideways to a Watkins or a Wilson if I was to start the season with Gabriel Jesus, or simply come down to those 7.5 gems of Nkunku and Darwin Núñez. And again, if Ferguson emerges as the forward to own, we have that cash cow available to us to then downgrade and invest elsewhere in the team. This is the best flexibility to have in the front line. I don't like going with just with Haaland, and I don't like going with the 6 million. I think the 8 million is just perfect for your teams, and then we can reassess in the opening game weeks whether they are going to be true value in FPL. And a 4.5 million forward, because of the value of the midfielders, we don't need that third forward. Someone like a Cameron Archer could be a brilliant option at 4.5, but nobody has emerged yet as an absolute lock in our teams. But this is the team structure, guys. I really think this is the perfect balance for you to have going into game week 1. A few question marks, the 6.5 maybe down to a 5.5, and then upgrade that 7.5 midfielder. But outside of that, this is pretty much what I would deem optimal going into game week 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for me just to quickly show you an example of a team based on that price structure. And a lot of the names that I mentioned make it into this team here with Ramsdale in goal. We have a Stupinan, Shaw and Trent. Again, that is such a fantastic three to own in the opening game weeks. I don't see any situation where you want to rotate those defenders. Therefore, having the likes of Bell and Baldock as your 4 million defenders, I think is just absolutely fine. If injuries were to happen, then of course the team can change. That's what free transfers there for. But those three there, I don't see any reason why you need to rotate those at any point. Looking at the midfielders I discussed, Rashford and Saka basically locks into a lot of teams. But Foden at 7.5 gives us that nice little differential into the Man City attack. And then Buemo and Mitoma, Eze could be one of those, look like the optimal 6.5 million midfielders. And it's just very difficult to ignore Brighton's attack right now with those opening fixtures that they have. And the front two of Gabriel Jesus and Haaland. Jesus giving us that additional second attacker into those brilliant Arsenal fixtures. And again, Haaland just basically being a lock into our FPL team. So this is a structure that I really like and a visual of how my team would look going into game week 1. I just think this gives us perfect balance. And again, if somebody was to go off at a cheaper price, we have the flexibility in the defense to go down. We have the flexibility in the front line to go down to these players. This just is a really nice balance. Of course, going to Mo Salah is going to be tough, but I just think having Mo Salah in our teams is going to leave us with no 8 million forward or no 8 million defender. And I just can't really go with that going into this opening game week. But there is one transfer in the market that could change the structure of this team. And that is what I mentioned previously about the transfer of Onana to Man United. Now, if that transfer was to happen and he does come in at 5 million, this is what I would deem the dream team for game week 1. Onana with his passing could be a bonus point magnet in this Man United team with those opening fixtures. I think he will accumulate saves as well. Therefore, I think he's actually going to be as good of an option as Luke Shaw at 0.5 million cheaper. And what I love about this is the previous team had Ramsdale and Luke Shaw both together at 10.5 million. Onana plus Gabriel, you're getting the same investment in each team, but a cheaper price at 10 million, which gives us that luxury of 0.5 million in the bank, which then we can then invest in that defensive area. So importantly, I've been able to upgrade Bell into someone like a Pau Torres at Aston Villa if he was to emerge as an option. But that could be Levi Colwill if he's to be a starter at Chelsea. That could be Botman at Newcastle. That would be the dream. This is the dream team for me if we are to get that transfer of Onana and priced at 5 million. I think this is a perfect balance. Estupiñán, Gabriel and Trent, you're not selling any of those players in the opening game weeks and you're starting them in basically any fixture, and that midfield is looking tasty. Again, you could leave the 4 million defender and invest that 0.5 and maybe Foden to an 8 million if you wanted to go there. I just think this is the optimal team, but it's going to depend on that Man United goalkeeper transfer. But this team just looks sensational. Right guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I really hope it has provided some value and given you a bit of an idea on how your team should be structured going into game week 1. If you did enjoy the video, please consider hitting that like button. We are aiming for 200 likes in this video. And again, if you are enjoying what you're watching, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. We're aiming for 6k before game week 1. I know you legends could do that. So that just leaves me to say, make sure you do check out our most recent video and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.